Hi, everybody. It's Stacy Sobel back for week 2 of Salon Today Conversations. And today I have Rowena Yeager, owner of Studio Wish. Say hi, Rowena.
Hi.
And her client, Amy Driscoll. Say hi, Amy.
Hi.
And you all have a very personal coronavirus story to share. Rowena called me actually the day that she got contacted by the health department that one of her clients had been tested positive. And she didn't know at the time, but that was you, Amy. So you want to tell us a little bit about your story and how you felt and when you knew you had it?
Sure. Saturday, March 7th, I was in Rowena's shop in the morning, and she did a really nice job on my hair and helped me lighten it and get it cut up, and I just felt great. And when I finished with her, I went to the Cavs game that evening, and so went to the Cavs game, which was my kind of last public place that I had been. And then the following Wednesday, came down with a fever and cough and just terrible, terrible feeling. And by the time I got home from work that night, was very sick, laid down, went to sleep, woke up, and I couldn't breathe. My heart was racing. My chest felt like it was being constricted. Just terrible headache. It was just terrible. I just felt terrible. And called a friend of mine, and she said, I think you should go in. So she sent me over to Ahuja, which is a medical center here in Northeast Ohio, and went in, and they saw me and admitted me and took a test. And after a couple hours and testing me for everything else under the rainbow. And then that test came back between Friday night and Saturday, and I was positive for coronavirus. So that's pretty much the beginning of our story.
Were you, when did you think that you had it? Were you pretty sure by the time that the test came back, or were you really surprised?
It was one of those where there was nothing else that was going to make it sense as to what it was at that time. I mean, I was pretty sick, but at the same time, nothing else had come back positive. So I didn't have the flu. I didn't have any other adenovirus. There wasn't anything else going on. So if it wasn't that, I was really concerned about what I did have. But when she came in and she told me, the poor nurse, she came in, it was close to midnight, and she came in and she's like, I'm really sorry to have to tell you this, you're positive. And I was like, okay. I was like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, we're sure. We're pretty sure. I said, okay, are you sure? She goes, yeah, we're sure. I was like, all right. Because then it was the whole thing, and I was only the second person in all of Summit County to be a confirmed diagnosis. So from there, all the tracing and all the stuff went out to try to figure out where and when and who I'd had contact with, which is how I got back to Rowena.
And then how long were you sick, and how sick did you get?
So the first couple of days that I was in the hospital, I was there from early Thursday morning until Saturday afternoon. I had a fever of 102, and most of the time I was in the hospital and pretty sick. I don't really remember a whole lot of the days that I was there. Lots of just, all you can do is really just sleep. I don't even recall watching the television hardly at all. And then Saturday afternoon, they pretty much said, we have the test result. We really just want you to go home, and basically you just have to kind of ride this out. So by Saturday, I was feeling a bit better. So when I left the hospital, I was feeling okay, not great, but kind of wiped out physically. And then over the next couple of days of just a level of exhaustion and really not feeling good for several days. But by midweek, I had started to feel like, okay, I was on my way to feeling like myself again. By the weekend, I was okay. And then late Sunday night of the following week, I started with a fever again. So fever, ache, the whole headache process, the whole process again for 3 or 4 days. I was sick again for 3 or 4 days, in contact with my doctor, everybody all over again. And since then, I've kind of had ups and downs where I'll get better for a couple days, and then I'll show up with the fever in the middle of the night or overnight. Fevers of like 101, 102, and then they go the next day. But since this is such a new virus, everyone seems to think that's kind of the way this might go for some people. So just trying to get well and stay well, and hopefully that it just kind of peters out on its own here pretty quick.
And you said today's a good day. So you had to isolate for how long, or quarantine?
So that's a good question. So when they released me from the hospital, they said it was until I had 2 negative tests. And then when I had 2 negative tests, then they would confirm that I had been finished with the virus, and then they would release me. But now testing is so scarce, they don't want to use the tests to confirm a negative diagnosis. So everyone kind of said, okay, 14 days. Well, then it was, is it 14 days from when the symptoms started, or from when the symptoms ended? Is it 14 days from the diagnosis date, or is it 14 days from the release date from the hospital? And everyone seemed to have a bit of a different opinion. So finally, my doctor just said, we're going to say that you're done with isolation from 14 days from your hospitalization from when I got released. So that was last week. And so I'm still having intermittent fevers. So I am still essentially isolating. I mean, I'm not going anywhere anyway. So yeah, I'm with my family. We're here at the house, but I'm not going out to see anyone or to do anything. So obviously.
So Rowena, how did you get involved with this, and when did you first hear of it, that there was a case in your salon, and how were you notified?
Well, yeah, as you know, Saturdays tend to be the busiest day in our industry for the most part. At least it is for us. And we had a really busy Saturday. All the team was having a great day. We had been sanitizing everything. Between each client, we were spraying down our chairs with barbicide. We weren't doing hand and arm massages anymore. We were being very cautious in our shampoo area, wiping every single thing down, constantly washing our hands, sanitizing the front desk. When clients would come in, as soon as somebody would leave, we would re-sanitize the desk. Doorknobs, light switches, credit card machine, anything that was touched by any of us or someone else, we were completely sanitizing at this point, because we wanted to make sure that we were protecting each and every single one of our guests. So towards the end of the day, around probably, I would say 4 o'clock, my front desk got a voicemail, or no, I'm sorry, not a voicemail, got a message for me that I needed to call somebody back. And, you know, being in the salon, you assume that it's a client that's calling, and the message said, you know, call back ASAP. So we went through our records, couldn't find this person's name in the system at all. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll call her back right before I leave. So everyone had cleaned up, everybody was getting ready to leave. My one front desk guest relations specialist said to me, you know, do you want me to wait for you? And I'm like, nah, I'll call this person back and then I'll be out the door. So she had just left. I pick up the phone and I call this woman back. Her name is Sarah. And she answers the phone that she's from the Summit County Health Department. And immediately I kind of went, oh my gosh, we've been doing everything right. What did we possibly do wrong? And she's like, oh, no. She goes, I'm calling because you've been exposed. And I'm like, well, how do you know I was exposed? And she said, well, we have a client of yours that has tested positive, and evidently you did her hair on Saturday, and you did a color and a cut of hers.
This was the previous Saturday.
Yes, that was the previous Saturday. The call was on the 14th, which was my birthday. And the actual time that Amy was in was on the 7th, which was a week before. So you can imagine the thoughts that immediately started rushing through my mind, knowing that from the 7th to the 14th, I've been around my family, I've been around my team, I've been around my guests, I've been in and out of the grocery store. So, you know, there's this huge like race that runs through your mind of all of these things. And it became almost like a blur trying to listen to what she had to say. And at certain points I had to say, okay, can you repeat that? Because I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. And she said, I asked her, I said, well, how do you know for sure I did a color and a haircut on this person? And she said, well, they told us that that was the case. And so I immediately went back to the 7th and I looked at my schedule. And because of what's going on, we have had a lot of cancellations. So I wasn't terribly busy that day. And I did have 3 guests. Amy was one that comes in for a curly girl cut, which I do on dry hair. And we had actually in our consultation discussed things to, kind of pick her up and brighten her mood. And we discussed color. She had not had color in a long time. So we did end up doing color on her hair. So I had a potential of 3 different guests that it could have been, but they couldn't tell me the name. And my concern was obviously for her as well, whichever guest this would have been. And as soon as I got off the phone, well, actually, while I was on the phone, she did tell me as well that because I live in Portage County, but yet my business is in Summit County, that my case was going to be turned over to Portage County, and I'd be getting a call from another representative from Portage County Health Department that I would have to call in every single day with my temperature in the morning and my temperature at night, that they were going to be monitoring me, that I would have to isolate myself in quarantine from my family and from other people. So I got off the phone and started looking at, interestingly enough, Facebook, because I was thinking, well, maybe this person might have posted something on Facebook and maybe I might be able to find out which one of my clients it is. So I checked the 2 that I thought it might be and couldn't find Amy. Her last name's different on Facebook than it is in our system. So at first I didn't see it. And so I decided to just go home, and I walked in the door, and my family was making dinner for me for my birthday. And when I walked in and they saw the look on my face, my youngest daughter just looked at me and said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I'm going to set my things down. Don't touch anything. I'm going to go back out to my car, get the rest of my things, and I'll be right back." I walked back in the house and they all had their shirts pulled up over their faces. And I looked at them, and of course I've got a lot of emotions that are going on. And I looked at them and I'm like, that's not even funny. And they're like, well, no, we're really serious. And so that I can kind of explain this a little better. My youngest daughter, Mia, her boyfriend, Ryan, has been laid off for the last couple months and has had lots of time to research the COVID-19. So he had been warning all of us and talking about it for weeks and months. And from a inspirational person's point of view and a business owner, I wanted to come to work every day in a positive mood, not talking about what was going on in the news. I didn't want to hear anything about COVID-19. I wanted to go in, be happy, and support my team and take care of our clients. That was my role. So to them, hearing that there was a possibility that I had been exposed meant that they were possibly exposed. So we sat down in the living room, we had a conversation, and immediately decided how we were going to make sure we sanitized everything in the house, how we were going to go in and out of the house, how I was only allowed to sit on one end of my couch, and I had my powder room that I could use. And then if I did go into my bathroom where my husband and I take showers, that I had to go in there and take our Lysol and Barbicide, which I brought home, and clean down every single thing that I would touch before I would come back out of that room. So it really was one of those situations that I've never had to deal with before. I didn't understand what was going on inside of myself at the time. And, being very aware of my feelings and my behaviors, it became very upsetting to me that this was something I had zero control over. And I'm sure Amy felt the same way. It is something you don't have any control over, and no one would ever wish this on someone else or intentionally expose them to it. So as soon as you find out that you have become in contact, you almost want to let the world know that this is real. This isn't something to think that it couldn't happen to you. And I did not actually think it would ever happen to me. I mean, very fortunate that my test results just came back on Saturday negative. So Fortunately, which I, for the most part, knew because I didn't have any major symptoms other than I had a headache, which was probably from stress. I had an elevated temperature that was probably, it was like 99.8, but as Stacy knows, I kept in contact with John, who, you know, being the incredible medical.
Who's my husband.
Yes, which is
Yeah.
Stacy's husband. And he helped kind of walk me through that, you know, everybody's temperature fluctuates. How often would you really sit and check your temperature every single day, hour upon hour? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So he was very calming for me, and I thank him because he really kind of helped keep me mentally in a place where it was a concern of my health that I shouldn't worry about something until I had something to worry about. So that was kind of my first days or so with the realization of possibly being in contact with someone that could have had it or does have it, that I could have actually been affected as well.
Now, because it was a Saturday night, you had Sunday and Monday to figure out what kind of decisions you were going to make for your business.
Yeah.
And you did decide ultimately to close before Ohio mandated it, correct? Because of this situation.
Yes. And, you know, my salon sisters, Maggie, Gail, Bonnie, and myself, I had let them know also what was going on at some point, and that I was going to have to connect with my team and make some decisions. And Gail said some things that I felt were really kind of important in breaking down what was going on, that there's a health concern and that there's a financial business concern. And so there's two things that take place when you're a business owner that start going through your head. My mind immediately went towards the health concern. It was like, but anything financial was like, whoa, back burner, don't even want to think about it. So for me, it was really about my team and making sure that they were safe. So I came up with this idea of, I was going to give my team 3 different options. I was not going to initially get on a Zoom call with them on Monday and tell them that I had been exposed. My plan was to give them the options of what we had as a team together and let them decide how they felt about it before they knew I had been exposed. So the first option was to continue doing what we were already doing, stay open the same number of hours, continue sanitizing every single thing that we used, everything that we touched as we had already been doing, and continue to stay open. Our second option would be to cut down our hours in the days that we were working and have less people in the salon at the time, have all of our guests only come in if they were the one getting a service done, not bringing in any other friends or children in with them. So it's just the guest and the stylist, and making sure that we only had so many guests in the salon at a time, and really kind of shrink it down into the minimalist part that we possibly could. And then the third option was obviously to close. So I went through the details of each option with my whole entire team on a Zoom call on Monday, and every single one of them had an opportunity to speak up about how they felt, and every single one of them said, this is getting really scary, and we do love what we do, but we do feel for health and safety reasons, because some of my team are close to people that are extremely high risk, and some of them themselves are high risk. They didn't want to come into work anymore. And so I immediately said to them that I felt that they made the best decision. And then I decided to tell them why I felt they made the best decision. And it was because that I personally had been exposed. And as soon as they heard that, they all started crying. And I'm sure they were crying for fear of themselves, exactly how I felt when I realized that I had possibly been exposed. Because I had been with them from the 7th till then. They had lots of questions. Did I touch her? Did I do a hand and arm massage on her? Did I do a shampoo on her? And no, this particular day, I was the only person that actually had touched Amy, which doesn't always happen that way. I do have assistants that typically do hand and arm massages for me and do the shampoos for me. So they were very, very concerned. And so fortunately, they were all healthy. They were all safe. They are still home. They are still healthy, and they still are all safe. And we do believe that for us, we made the best decision. Now, the financial piece was something that after the fact, then I have to reevaluate, what do we do now? So of course, that's a whole other pillar and a whole other part of what we're focusing on now and moving forward, because I do see this as a huge opportunity for not only our earth to heal, but for our industry as well. That I do see a lot of walls coming down with people that haven't spoken together in a long time, people that never even knew each other coming together. I have local salon owners that I've never met before that have reached out and connected, because we do believe that we are truly in this together, and we can help support each other in a lot of emotional, informational ways right now to help us rebuild, because we are strong industry and we will come back out and we will rise above this. It's just darkness in the storm right now, and every single day there is light. And every single day I do believe that we need to look for what that light is and have a lot more love and care and kindness for each other. I do also believe that seeking first to understand where another person is at is always better than to seek first to be understood. And initially, when you're in the shock of fear, it doesn't always come out that way. And so I do think that for everyone right now, that the best thing that we can do is be patient with each other and really find ways that we can help and support each other in the best way that we can.
And we have a few minutes left, but you did eventually figure out it was Amy, because Amy, you went very public with it.
Yeah, I didn't really intend to go viral for getting virus, but yes, I had come home from the hospital on Saturday, and it was the first time I had a chance to get on Facebook in a couple of days. And so I was scrolling through Facebook, and I live in a town very close to where Rowena's business is. And I just was seeing a lot of my local, people commenting that they were going to get all their kids together and that they were going to have Corona parties and that they were going to, just expose all kind of like I think you've probably heard of like chickenpox parties where people get all their kids together and just expose their kids to chickenpox all at the same time. That was kind of the idea, I think. I saw a lot of people commenting about, still traveling for spring break and they were still going to go away. And I just kept scrolling, and I was getting a little irritated. And I was kind of like, people don't get it. They just don't get it. And then I saw a comment from a high school friend who lives a couple towns over, who said, this is all fake, it's not real, this is the government, they're just trying to get to us. I don't know anyone who has the disease, COVID. I don't know anyone who's been diagnosed with it. Does anyone know anyone who's been diagnosed with it or whatever? So I wrote my post on Facebook and I let it sit for a little while, and then I pushed send. And so, basically I said in my post, if you need to know what COVID-19 or coronavirus looks like, it's me. I have it. I've been diagnosed. I'm the second person in all of Summit County to have it. And I'll tell you what it's like. And so I went through and I, told people what it was like to have been diagnosed and to have the illness and what that felt like. And so apparently that struck a chord with a lot of people. And by the time the evening was over, it had been shared over 1,000 times, and now we're just a little less than a month out, and I think we're at over 31,000 times that it's been shared. So, and I'm sure there's more that the system doesn't even count. So it went viral and apparently was very helpful to people. Lots of people were very supportive and thankful that I had put kind of a face to the illness and that I had gotten better. And so people were grateful that gave them a little bit of hope that this was not as dire as it seemed to be, and that they could, if they were careful, manage their condition if they got it and that kind of thing. So yeah, I went viral for being viral.
Really viral. So you said now though you're getting contacted from people that want plasma or things from you because you have the antibodies.
Correct. Yeah. I've had 3 people reach out to me today asking me to donate plasma. I think there's a very sick doctor down in Cincinnati, and they want my plasma in order to help. And I'm still not able to donate per the Red Cross and per the doctors. They want me to be symptom-free for 2 full weeks before I can do that. And I have not yet been symptom-free for 2 full weeks. So we're just waiting until that happens. And then as soon as that's possible, then I will be donating. So I have donated blood to a company that is working with researchers on developing antibodies. So I've done 3 small donations of just red blood for right now, so that they can identify the antibodies and see what they look like and get those out to researchers.
Well, it's marvelous the way you were so public about your story, and Rowena, how you went public with your story for the salon industry. And I just thank both of you for sharing it with Salon today. And Amy, we all hope you continue to feel better and get to that place where you're symptom-free for 2 weeks. And,
Too.
and we hope that's soon, very soon.
Right, definitely.
Definitely, so we can get you back in the salon again too.
All of us, we're all gonna need to go back.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, our guests miss us. We miss our guests. The stylists cannot wait to get their hands back in hair, because mannequin heads just aren't quite the same.
Quite the same.
Well, thank you both. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Amy, keep in touch with us. Let us know how it's going.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank
Will
you,
do.
Stacey. Thanks for bringing us together. It's great to see you, Amy.
Good to see you too, babe.
Love you. Keep well.
Thank you, you too.
Bye, Stacey.